Hey neighbor, Greg here with growhouse.com. I was in my 20s before I found running butter beans. I think every home gardener should be growing running or climbing butter beans, or our neighbors in the north call them lima beans. Back in the day, we used to have these feed and seed stores that were really active, and they are not so much anymore, but back in the day, they were. And I was listening to an old man 30 some odd years ago talk about running butter beans, and I had to try them, and I have been hooked ever since. Now, butter beans in the commercial settings are always grown as a bush, and when I was coming up, that's all I knew was bush butter beans. And I'm talking about small bush butter beans that you had to lean over and pick, and it was one of the most dreaded tasks anybody could have in the garden, was out there in the hot garden bending over picking those butter beans. Coming up, it was notorious. Picking butter beans was just back-breaking. But from the commercial standpoint, they're all grown in bushes, and the reason why is they can pick them or they can harvest them with a commercial combine. So they don't actually have to bend over there. All your commercial butter beans, lima beans are grown as bush beans, and they're harvested with a combine. However, us in the home garden, we don't have machines to do the picking. We got to do them ourselves. And these running or climbing butter beans here offer several advantages for the home gardener that I think blows it out of the water. And you should never be growing a bush butter bean. You should be growing these climbing butter beans. And there's a couple of good reasons why. One is we plant these primarily in the springtime, and we get a harvest in the springtime. We let them continue to grow, and we get a harvest again in the fall of the year. That's one plant that lasts all growing season long. If we plant bush butter beans, by the time we pick them 2 or 3 times, they're done, and we have to move on. So they're more of a short season thing. These climbing butter beans just last and last and last. Another thing is, which is the most important part, is we can stand up and harvest them. We don't have to be bent over. And look here, the older we get, the more we appreciate that. We can stand up and harvest these things, and they're highly productive. Another thing too, we categorize this as vertical gardening because we're trellising it. It takes a lot less room to grow a lot of butter beans, and for the home gardener, space a lot of times is really important. Now let's go over different varieties of climbing or running butter beans. The first one we got here is Christmas pole lima. Now this is our best seller. This is the one I started growing a long time ago, and we have been selling these for a number of years, and they always sell really well. This is what I call the fork hook size. So this is one of those real old big butter beans or lima beans, and they are marbled up with color, or some people would call speckled. But see the size of them right there? These are really big, and a lot of people just love these, and I do as well. The next one here is King of the Garden lima bean or butter bean, and this is a big butter bean or lima bean, just like the Christmas, except this is a green one. It's not speckled up or not marbled. Now this particular variety we have treated with thiram. You see the red on them right there, but when you pick these things, they're gonna look just like a green butter bean or green lima bean. Same size, maybe just a tad smaller than the Christmas, but still a big size lima bean there. And the thiram helps us with some disease control, so don't worry about that a whole lot. It's not a very harsh treatment, but it is a little bit of a treatment there that helps these seeds from rotting off when you plant them. I really like the thiram treatment. I wish we could get more of them. But you have 2 of the bigger butter beans and lima beans. Now let's check out the smaller size ones. First one is our Reverend Taylor lima bean, which is actually what this one is behind me right here. Now this was an heirloom variety, which I think all these I'm talking about today are going to be heirlooms. Heirloom variety that we got from over in Alabama here. Now this is that speckled or marbled up butter bean, but this is what we call just a regular size butter bean or lima bean. Next one we have is Alabama black eye butter bean, and our neighbors over in Alabama just love these running butter beans. So we got 2 varieties that came from over in Alabama. And this one right here is looks just like a black eye pea, but it's a black eye butter bean. Has that pale look to it. It's not what we consider a colored butter bean. Climbing has the same growth characteristics as the one behind me right there. It's just a little bit different color. Size-wise, real similar to the Reverend Taylor. Now let's talk about when to plant these right here. Ideally, I like to plant these in the springtime, That way I get that harvest all throughout the growing season, with the exception of during the hot summer months there. But you know what? It takes a little work. It's a little expensive to plant these because we have to trellis them and everything. So I think you get the most bang out of your buck if you plant them in the spring. Now you can plant them right now and you can grow them up and you can have a harvest before frost. Once frost hits them, they're one and done and over with. So ideally, plant them in the springtime, but if you've not planted any and you just want to try them, it's okay to plant now. Just remember, you're just going to get one fall harvest off of them. Now, I always use drip tape on these right here, and the reason is it's really hard to overhead irrigate. So drip tape's the way to go. This is a long crop, about 8 months long, so drip tape really pays off when you're trying to water these things. Another thing too is trellising. Now we have what we call Hortonova trellis that we sell a lot of it. And I love that product. It's kind of a netting. It works wonderful on such things as one season pole beans or cucumbers or things like that. I do not like it in this application right here. This application right here, what I use is metal T-post and cow panels. That is the best way to trellis these right here. These get kind of heavy. We get some wind storms this time of year with the hurricane season coming along. So we don't want these things to blow over. And those, I have found over the years, the cow panel with the T-post is the best solution for trellising these right here. Now back in the day, I got a little fancy and we found some wild bamboo growing and we made some teepees and we grew them up on that. It's really pretty and it's cute to kind of do. The reality is that sometimes they get blown over as well. Hardly ever do I get any storm damage when I grow these things on good, tall T-post and cow panels. Let's talk about fertility. We know beans do not take a lot of fertilizer. I fertilize these with a complete organic when I plant them to get them started, to get them up and going, and I don't put anything else to them in the springtime. Now, after they go through the hot summer, I'll fertilize them again going into fall to help them have a flush of new growth there. Not a heavy fertilization, but I'll fertilize them with something like our all-in-one 10-10-10 or our complete organic, a good balanced fertilizer to get them kicked off going into the fall of the year. Talk about growing these things such a long growing season. In the spring, when we plant these and they come up, we don't have hardly any insect pressure in the spring. They just grow and do wonderful. However, when they move into the summer months there, what you will see is all the blooms will throw off, and even your small beans will throw off on those hot days. So we don't get much harvest during the summertime. It just throws those blooms, it stresses the plant, and all we're wanting to do is keep that plant nice and healthy going into the fall of the year. So we do see some pest pressures during the middle of the summertime. As you can see right here, I've got some chewing on the leaves right there. I've got some spider mite damage. I got a little bit of this in here. We have been keeping them treated about every 7 to 10 days, but I'm getting a little bit of damage. I actually don't know what this is right here. I got an idea that this is a chewing wasp. I know it's not a bean beetle. It possibly could be some other type of beetle, but I'm not exactly sure what this is. And cosmetically, it makes it look a little rough, but it's just mostly cosmetic damage. We're going to clean these things up going into the fall, and they're going to set a lot of blooms, and we're going to have a wonderful bean harvest when it cools off just a little bit all the way to frost. Now, when we get into those summer months going into fall is when we really need to get these plants cleaned up, make sure they're as free of disease and insect as possible. Now, here's a good recipe for you to use right there. Take All and Fungamax. Fungamax works the best on rust, and we have problems on rust on butter beans and pole beans and bush beans, any kind of bean we have problems with rust. Fungamax is the best product I know on that. So I like to mix Fungamax for my disease control in with an insecticide. My choice is these two right here put together. Now, I will rotate them out from time to time with spinosad, which is an organic product, and mix these two together. It's good to rotate your insecticides sometimes to change your mode of action. So these 3 chemicals here on a rotation here is a good strategy for your running or climbing butter beans or lima beans. So one thing that you may not have known about beans is there's no such thing as a hybrid bean. We have crosses, but they're all what we call stabilized crosses. So you can save the seed of any bean seed and it will come back true to variety. So we don't have to worry about buying seeds every year if you want to save your own seeds. And if you're new to saving seeds, beans are probably the easiest plant to save the seeds from. You just want to wait till they get fairly dried out on the bush. Let me see if I can find one right here. There we go. Here's a couple right here. See how nice and brown they are right there? Save you a few of these here back, shell these out and let them dry a little bit more, and save your seeds from year to year. Bean seeds, especially butter beans or lima beans, are some of the easiest to do seed saving from. And we don't have to worry about them not coming back true to variety, because even though these 4 I've told you about today are heirlooms, even if they was not heirlooms, they are what we call stabilized crosses, and they come back true to variety. So you can save the seed to any bean variety out there. As far as spacing, I like to plant mine after I lay my drip tape on 1 foot in row spacing. So every emitter with our drip tape has an emitter every 12 inches, and I plant a seed every 12 inches on that drip tape. Give yourself a little room inside here, 6 or 7, maybe 8 foot's not too much. You see how wide we are here? You got to be able to get in there and work out soil and keep your weeds down. So you want to leave yourself plenty of room here. 30, 36 inches is way too close to plant them together. So this is one of them crops you really got to spread out there. Just about all these seed packs I showed you today have 50 seeds in the seed pack. Now what we've grown right here is a seed crop, and we've already harvested a bunch of seed off of this little plot here. You as a home gardener, you need no more than 50 seeds. If you plant a 50-foot row of these butter beans, you're going to have enough to supply you and all your neighbors and family with butter beans. You're probably going to hate me and hate life if you plant 50. A 12 or a 15 or 18-foot row, well, let's figure on our cow panels. Most of the cow panels are 12 foot. So plant you a 12 or maybe a 24-foot row of these right here, and that will be a gracious plenty for most home gardeners. So you can harvest these things in immature stage, is what we call butter beans here in the South, and they're in that nice green hull there. Shell them out. You can eat them fresh, you can freeze them, several different ways to preserve them. Or you can wait till they dry out some there, and you can harvest dry beans, and you can store these dry beans, soak them, so when you get ready to cook them later on in the winter time, you'll have some good beans. Several different ways you can harvest these, you can preserve them. It is one of the things, if you're not growing in your garden, you need to grow one of these butter beans. Pick out the type you want. Do you want a big one? Do you want a smaller one? But you got to be growing these climbing butter beans.